at the Howard Johnson's on Orange Blossom Trail. Want to come?
That would be awkward.
Not for me, and I'd like you to meet my kids.
Maybe it'd be awkward for Laura.
So who cares?
Carver did, but he could almost convince himself that he didn't. His marriage had been a quicksand tragedy, mainly because of him. He didn't want Laura back, and she didn't want him, and he didn't fool himself about who carried the blame for the divorce. He didn't hate Laura, didn't even remotely dislike her, and he didn't want to cause her any trouble. She was simply a woman who'd been caught up in the wrong life at the wrong time. His life. After the divorce, she'd married again to a psychologist named Charles Montaigne. Carver had agreed to let them legally adopt the children, though he'd maintained minimal visitation rights. He wanted Chipper and Anne to be part of a family unit, even if he wasn't in it. Carver still thought of Chipper, young Fred Montaigne, as Fred Jr. Carver's inclination these last few days to stereotype Laura as the disdainful and vaguely vengeful former wife was, he knew, a sort of reassuring manifestation of his love for Edwina. But Edwina wasn't reassured.
I can't go anyway. I've got some property to show tonight down the coast.
She sold real estate in and around Del Moray and was serious about her work, ferocious about it. Carver didn't know whether to believe her. Edwina cocked her head to the side sharply at the sound of tires crunching on the gravel drive at the front of the house. A car door slammed, and Carver looked toward the front gate, idly toying with his coffee cup. He'd remember the feel of the cup, the warm curved surface of smooth china, the sharp spur against his knuckle near the base of the arched handle, for the rest of his life. A permanent moment. Because as soon as the tall figure of Alfonso de Soto appeared from behind the palm tree and pushed through the gate, Carver knew in a part of his mind older than he was that something was very wrong. He knew it by the strained lines of de Soto's handsome Latino face, by the lack of vigor in his walk and the slump of his shoulders. The jacket of de Soto's pale gray lightweight suit was unbuttoned and flapping in the soft ocean breeze. De Soto was a clothes horse who always automatically buttoned his suit coat when standing up or climbing out of a car, like zipping his fly after relieving himself. But not this morning. And the fact that he was here instead of at the Municipal Justice Building in Orlando, where he was a police lieutenant in homicide, was in itself ominous. Carver had talked to de Soto 2 days ago, and he knew de Soto was working the day watch and should be behind his desk or out on an important call. Unless something more important and personal had brought him here. As he approached the table, de Soto flashed his white dashing smile, but it was obviously mechanical. He was ethnic matinee idol handsome, with broad squared shoulders and a lean waist, and with the carved and faintly hawkish features that gave away his Aztec heritage if one looked closely enough to realize that he wasn't Cuban, as many people assumed. De Soto's father had been Mexican, his mother American of Italian descent. The draw of the gene pool had produced in de Soto a man who, had he been an actor, would have been cast by any producer in the role of romantic bullfighter. Without speaking to Carver, he bent gracefully and kissed Edwina's cheek. Always de Soto gave first and special attention to women. He whispered something in Edwina's ear. She sat back in her chair until her entire face was concealed by the shadow of the umbrella. Then she stood up and walked into the house. She was wearing a skimpy blue bathing suit, and her walk was incredibly elegant and sensual. But de Soto didn't stare after her. Instead, he turned and gazed down at Carver with somber brown eyes.
Another day almost too hot for crime, eh? It's a wonder there's work for people like us.
Small talk time, as if Edwina had gone inside merely to cool off.
Want some juice or coffee?
Carver let de Soto work up to the purpose of his visit in his own fashion.
Neither.
De Soto turned and looked out at the sea and sky beyond the rise on which the house was built. The land was graded, so there was a drop to the ocean. From the veranda, you could hear the waves breaking on the rocks the Army Corps of Engineers had piled there to keep the beach from eroding.
You're in the midst of true beauty here, Carver. Tranquility. I hope you appreciate your situation. It could make you stronger.
Carver started to get up.
Stay down, amigo.
Carver had heard that sad tone in de Soto's voice before. He settled back in his sun-heated metal chair and waited. De Soto sat down across from him where Edwina had been sitting.